Hello, everyone. I'm Carlos Zamora, an advanced planning specialist and family service director here at Bonney Watson. And our last video, we spoke with Harley, our licensed funeral director, and she gave the steps that are needed in order for Bonney Watson to help your family at the time a loved one passes away. She also gave information on what would be needed during the arrangement appointment, where the funeral director will work with the family to schedule services, viewings, and all of the things needed for burial or interment. Today, I'm very fortunate to have Summer. Hello, Summer.
Hello.
And Summer is part of our prep team and an embalmer, and she's going to talk a little bit about her main responsibilities here at Bonney Watson and what she does to help families. What it could be is look their best for their funeral services. So, Summer, tell me a little bit about yourself and your role here at Bonney Watson.
Yes, of course. So I am a licensed embalmer. I haven't been here for even a year yet, so I'm new here to Bonney Watson. But I have been a licensed service provider for funeral directing and embalming for about 7 years now.
Okay. And what's the process to become a licensed embalmer?
It is quite a long process. First, you're going to get your associate's degree in mortuary science, and then you're going to find a funeral home to intern at. To get your embalming license, you do have to be an intern for 2 years.
Okay.
And then you also have to pass what's the national boards, which is a standard test throughout the United States to obtain your license after your internship.
So, I mean, it's quite a process and dedication to do that.
Oh, yes.
When did you know you wanted to do this?
Since I was a little girl, kind of, you ask what you want to be when you grow up, and I said doctor, and I discovered that I don't want someone's life on my hands. I am very sensitive to that. So I looked into taking care of deceased loved ones and quickly found that was something I wanted to do. I'm very science oriented. And then as starting my career, to see how emotionally fulfilling it is as well was very rewarding to kind of feed both sides of me.
You know, that's really a luxury and a privilege to be able to find something that will not only help people, because we are helping people and, helping people in a very difficult time, but that it also provides that other personal rewarding side of ourselves. As an embalmer here at Bonney Watson, what are your main responsibilities? Because you are part of our prep team, and we know that the prep team does a whole lot. Tell me a little bit about your main responsibilities here.
Yeah, so my main responsibilities is the act of embalming, but it's so much more than that. It's to get them look their best because unfortunately the end of life care is not a pretty one. And so we get them to look their best as well as the dressing, casketing, cosmetizing. We do their hair, we do their makeup, and it's just all aspects of their appearance to represent them as well as give that final lasting look. It's actually called a memory picture. And it's something that in the industry, we really strive to make sure you have the best one possible. Not having that last memory picture, it can be unsettling.
Right.
And so to turn that memory picture around is very important to the process.
When I help the funeral director with services afterwards, when I follow up with the family, one of the most common responses to me is, well, thanking to me, even though it is you.
Yeah.
It is thanking to me for Bonney Watson that we provided the services and we were able to make their loved one look their best. I helped a family a few weeks ago, and she was just so happy that her late husband looked great, because if she had what you just said now was really interesting, this memory picture, because if you hadn't provided such excellent service, her memory picture would have been her late husband in the hospital not looking very well.
Yeah.
And she was so happy, and she goes, please thank everyone with that. And I immediately said, absolutely, we'll thank everyone who was able to do that. Since you mentioned memory picture, that's resonated now with me and how important that is for families. We do know that when someone passes away, the body goes through a natural process.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that varies from individual to individual depending on a lot of factors.
Yes. So their age, unfortunately, their cause of passing, as well as where they passed, how long they'd been passed until they were taken into our care. Every body is different, so it could be the same exact amount of time, and they're in different stages of that natural process.
So, under ordinary situations,
Mhm.
and you're going to help me with this because I get asked this a lot, and
Okay.
I reference it usually back to the funeral director.
Mhm.
But when I'm in a meeting and I'm asked how much time do I have, that's a very common question.
Yeah.
Typically, what are we looking at as far as time in order to have the best results for a viewing and an open casket funeral?
Yeah. So unfortunately, embalming is not concrete. Your person is not going to be preserved forever. And because of the different circumstances, everybody is different, as I kind of mentioned earlier. But under those normal circumstances, 2 weeks is pretty ideal because the processes aren't always stopped. And the longer we have them, the more the natural processes can fight the embalming process and the chemicals. And we want you to have the best picture possible. And so waiting, it can happen. We've made people look great after 2 months, but I can't promise you that.
Right.
And where my pride and giving nature lies is I want to be able to promise you. And so in that 1 to 2 weeks range is really optimal time.
Okay. And that's good for everyone to know because that is a very common question that I get asked. I know that some people are really adamant about not being embalmed.
Mhm.
And when I do get those questions, I mention that time is of the essence then.
Yeah.
So the conversation has to, be not hurried,
Yeah.
but it has to proceed as soon as possible,
Mhm.
basically. But embalming does give you that ability to, take your time to make some decisions. And for some families, that is a very good thing because either they don't have everything in place for burial
Yeah.
or they're waiting for family to come in from out of state. There's a variety of different reasons. Another question that I get asked is if embalming is mandatory, if it's a necessary action that needs to happen.
Absolutely not. Embalming is not required by law. However, there's a lot of funeral homes that have the policy to have embalming, especially when it is a public visitation for long hours, because from our side of things, we need to ensure public safety. And because of the natural processes, it is technically a biohazard. I know that's not a great word to hear, but there is an ugly side to death, unfortunately. And so the embalming process helps keep that sanitation, which is one of the main three components why people embalm.
How long does the embalming process take?
As you mentioned, everybody is different. There's different circumstances. But if we're going off of that normal circumstances, natural circumstances, it generally takes around an hour to an hour and a half. But things can be more or less.
We're talking about things that a lot of people, don't know,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, well, that won't know until they actually have to go through this process. And I want these videos to be, uh, I don't want them to be, shocking or we're talking about morbid things. I want them to be educational
Yes.
because, again, in my experience, almost every day talking to families, they just don't know. They don't know what it takes for in-ground burial. They don't know what happens when their loved one comes into our care. They
Mhm.
don't know what a funeral director does.
Mhm.
So I answer their questions
Mhm.
and try to reassure them. And, I let them know that we've been here for a long time. Bonney Watson is a leader in funeral services in the state, that all of our team prides themselves in treating families with respect and dignity. Uh, One of the things that I really like to say is that at Bonney Watson, at our CTAC location,
Mhm.
everything is done here on campus.
Yeah.
So everything from cremation to in-ground burial to the prep team,
Mhm.
our chapel, it's all here because
Mhm.
some families, they don't want their loved one being moved from one place to another before their services
Yeah.
or before their burial.
Yeah.
So embalming is your main responsibility.
Mhm.
What would you say your second main responsibility is?
Honestly, the dressing and casketing, it Sounds simple, but it's not. We have a system for ordering our caskets. The general timeline is we will have a casket delivered 2 days before their services. That is important because as we take care of more people, we don't have the storage to hold all of those caskets for that 1 or 2 weeks or even longer. But we also need to give ourselves enough time in case the casket's damaged to be able to return it and get a replacement.
Yeah.
And then we get people ready generally the day before. So that's also part of that 2-day reasoning. And the second one is going to be the dressing. As I said, there's all many cultures that we serve, all different religious garb that we have to put on. It's not as easy as it sounds, you know. We are luckily very well versed here at Bonney Watson, which is a part of reason why I like it. But it doesn't mean it doesn't make me go out of my comfort zone sometimes, especially for the pressure to deliver.
Right.
So a lot of YouTube sometimes, a lot of Googling, but I'm also not opposed to asking the family. I would rather make that question that may be a little awkward to make sure that I'm providing the best that I can.
Lots of other professions, if you make a mistake, you erase it.
Yeah.
But in what we do, making a mistake,
Is not okay.
it's not okay because we don't want to go back to a family and, tell them that it didn't go the way they thought. Or, even in your case, I can totally understand that pressure of, my loved one didn't look like, which I have not heard at all. So that is a very good thing. Okay, now I might be getting a little into the curiosity side of it.
Yeah.
But has there been a family, someone who has passed away, who you thought that you weren't going to be able to have those excellent standards for a proper viewing?
Yeah.
But that, either you tried a new technique or you got assistance from someone else, and ultimately the family was able to have a viewing?
Yeah. So I kind of touched base earlier of I've taken care of someone being seen 2 months after their passing. Unfortunately, that person did not come into our care in great condition, and the length of time those natural processes started. And I am very grateful that we were able to make this person look relatively the same as they did in life. It's very nerve-wracking of here's all of these facts to the sad side of death. And he still thought that she looked beautiful. And to still put our best foot forward and that it worked out and still provided that memory picture is probably one of the few families that will definitely stick throughout my career. It was a hard feat for me, I'm not going to lie.
I tend to think I'm slightly creative. And I can, what you're just saying brings back to me in the creative process where you have an end goal in mind, but the technique, the method of how you're trying to get there isn't what you thought, but that still getting an end result that is not even satisfactory, but to get an extreme compliment of she still looks beautiful. I can understand from not only a compassionate side, because we all have to have a compassionate side working here at Bonney Watson, but as sort of a creative side too.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, it was a lot of makeup, and that's all right. But part of the making them look the same is that color matching. And it's kind of one of my favorite parts because it takes a lot and it's important more than people kind of even go there in their mind how important it is. And so to do that color matching was probably one of the hardest things for her. But it turned out well, and I know is part of the important factor for her still looking how he imagined her in life.
So the dressing, you mentioned dressing. So people bring clothes. What do families usually bring in? Is there like a usual type of clothes that someone brings in?
It really varies. For men, suits are a big one, but maybe it's not a full suit, but a button up and some slacks is very common. For women, though, absolutely anything. And that's kind of something I enjoy because clothes show the personality of a person. And so when people go out of that normal suit and tie and do things that just from their closet. Some people buy new, some don't. And I think it's a way in the back of the house that I get to know this person a little more. It is something I miss about funeral directing, is interacting with those families and to hear about their loved one. And so to still have those ways to get personal with the loved one is very nice to me.
Yeah, I've seen a family bring in a very tropical shirt once, and they said my loved one loved going on cruises and being on the beach. So it's like, I want to see them resting in peace in a in a Tommy Bahama shirt, and that's a good feeling to be able to do that. Well, Summer, thank you so much for chatting with us for a little bit. I wanted to chat with you because, when someone comes and asks us to help, the face of that is usually the funeral directors, the people at the front desk. And I want to show the audience and tell people it takes a big team. And I want to share what those team members do and how everyone needs to work together and have a deep concern for the families and a passion for helping families. And I think that you've absolutely demonstrated that. And I just want to thank you for your time.
And I thank you for having me do this video with you, because I love educating. Embalming can be scary to people, and to get the right information out there, I think will help the families ultimately make the best decision for them and their loved one to create the best after death experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested in advanced planning here at Bonney Watson, I can help. Carlos Zamora. You'll have all my information in the notes and on the screen. Advanced planning provides peace of mind. It also just not only peace of mind, but it helps families because they're not going to have to worry about what did mom and dad want. Did they want to be cremated? Did they want to be buried? And there isn't that conflict or added stress that can occur when one of our loved ones passes away. There's also some financial incentives to do advanced planning. So give me a call. I'll be glad to help. Set up an appointment, and I will walk you through this process step by step. Thank you, and don't forget to like and subscribe.